What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV back here for another match review as Spurs lost 2-1 to Aston Villa at Villa Park yesterday. And look, before we get into the game, I just want to say, like, I am in the firm opinion now, I am taking part of a social experiment being a Tottenham Hotspur fan. Like, I don't understand how things can keep going from bad to worse to worse to worse to worse. The whole shit show that's going on regardless, and then in the last few days, apparently we've rejected Nagelsmann, which I haven't been in the studio, I haven't had my say on that. We've rejected Nagelsmann, which is obviously not the case. And then a few days after that, Pochettino to Chelsea, here we go. I mean, are they just like trying to push us over, like keep pushing us and pushing us close to the edge and see when we're actually going to crack?
Exactly, seeing what our breaking point is.
Yeah, exactly. It's crazy what is going on at this football club.
Yeah, we're all over the place. We're all over the shop, and we know this. Like we're an absolute mess. There's absolutely no direction. There's nothing to really cling on to say that things are going to get better right now. I mean, the whole Nagelsmann thing, which I spoke about when it happened, but I mean, it's obviously nonsense. I mean, it's so clear that's absolute rubbish. What they've pumped out was about Nagelsmann, that we've rejected him. Yeah, right. No chance. And now we're seeing on the cusp of potentially no European football for next season. Mason wasn't a great managerial performance from him at the end of the day yesterday, although I don't want to criticise him too much. And we haven't won an away game since February. Still no director of football. Still no manager. What's going to happen with Harry Kane? There's no lead. Our captain as well. Lloris is probably set to leave. So there's no leadership at the moment at this football club. It's just a mess from top to bottom right now. Absolute mess.
It literally feels like I'm taking part in a social experiment, and they're just seeing how far they can push us, how far they can push me. I mean, I'm just completely broken by this football club, to be honest. I have no hope, no faith, nothing left in me, to be honest. But let's talk about the game. 2-1 away at Aston Villa. I mean, that first half was nothing short of a disgrace.
You talk about no hope, no faith, no shots.
No shots.
That's what you can talk about that first half.
No attacks even in that second half. Like, in that first half, that first half was an absolute disgrace. It really was. I mean, we had one game plan for that whole first half. All we tried to do was lump balls over the top and try and get in behind them. They played an unbelievable high line, and they played an unbelievable line to catch us offside every time. But if you find out it's not working 2, 3, 4 times, like, why do you keep going the same way and keep trying to do the same things? I mean, you're talking about Ryan Mason coming up against Unai Emery here. I mean, Unai Emery just completely did a job on Mason yesterday, and I thought it was great tactical nous from Unai Emery yesterday to win that game. But we need to find different variations in our play, and we couldn't seem to do that yesterday. And every single time it was just balls over the top, Son offside, Richarlison offside, every single time, and it was just so frustrating.
I actually think the high line from Aston Villa was really dangerous, actually, and I think any team with a bit of quality, a bit of ability to get on the ball themselves and time a pass through would have been able to catch Villa out, but we just didn't have that quality. That's the reality, and I think maybe Villa banked on that. Villa probably banked on the fact that Spurs wouldn't have the quality to play balls over the top with the timing to make sure that they're staying onside. Richarlison, I think he pretty much spent the whole game offside. I think every time he touched the ball, he was offside. I think he had 9 touches throughout the game. Son, 9. Heung-min Son had a couple of chances, but both of them were both offside anyway. Again, he spent majority of the game offside as well. And if you look at the average position for Aston Villa, you can see, look how central they are. They basically congested the central area so that we couldn't get any possession to the likes of Højbjerg and Skip, and it meant that basically it was relying on Longley Romero and who else was centre back? And Emerson, I guess. It was pretty much relying on them to play balls over the top to the strikers, and they just didn't have the quality to do it. Harry Kane occasionally was able to drop deep, but he just wasn't able to pick up possession in any meaningful way, and he was shut down by Aston Villa whenever he was pretty much picking up possession. They knew if they shut down Harry Kane, who else has the quality?
Yeah,
who else has the creativity?
Nothing. But I mean, like, we had players like Pedro Porro on the pitch yesterday, and we didn't utilise him anywhere near enough like we could. We know he's got the quality. We know he can get good balls in the box. Why weren't we utilising the space out wide that they were giving us? Because Porro, I mean, he had acres of space at times on that right-hand side, and we just didn't seem to utilise him whatsoever.
He didn't seem to get forward enough. I think Moreno was doing a good job with him. I think Moreno was fairly high up the pitch as well, which probably led to Porro being penned back quite a lot. And it meant that he couldn't really progress up the pitch anywhere near enough. And we couldn't get the ball to the midfield. When you're pretty much literally, I don't know how many touches Højbjerg and Skip had in that first half, but when they're so restricted in possession, they literally know that we can't get the ball centrally. So we have to try and get out wide. But because McGinn and Ramsey, they were kind of like two centre mids tucked in. So it was like they were playing out wide, but they were tucking in as well. And it was basically meant that they could also track back like the wing backs when they were getting forward. And it was very hard for us to get the ball to them. So we pretty much had nothing, essentially, apart from playing a ball over the top of the high line. And as I say, I actually don't think it was a bad tactic to play the ball over the top because of their high line. They were leaving lots of space, but we just didn't have the quality to do it.
I'm not saying it was a bad tactic, but what I'm saying is that over and over again, it seemed to be our only source of attack, our only option to go forward was balls over the top. You need to have variation, otherwise they know what's coming every single time, and they knew what was coming every single time because they kept pushing up and catching us offside.
I think that was the game plan for them. It was to try and force us into that. I think it wasn't just they knew it was coming, that was what they planned for.
Yeah, it's true.
And I think that it worked a treat for them. Their defensive line was absolutely brilliant. We were just literally offside. We literally, the whole first half, we didn't have a single shot. We couldn't get anywhere near their box. I think we had one touch in their penalty area up until the 60th minute. Yeah. That's how well they were defending. And Unai Emery, since he's come in, hasn't been known actually for doing that kind of defending. He's been a bit deeper, playing a bit more on the counter attack. But I was saying in the pre-match, I do wonder, with Villa being at home, if they see themselves as favourites, will they try and dominate the ball, or will they play with a bit? Because when they came to the Tottenham stadium, it was a bit more counter attack. But this time they dominated possession. Not only did they play a high line and throw caution to win, they also created chances. They were the one. Forster was making some really good saves. Yeah. They were lucky it was only 1-0 at half time.
Absolutely.
But again, third away game in a row, we're conceding inside the first 10 minutes. Shambles of a start. And that first half was absolute shit show. We were very lucky it was only 1-0.
Yeah, absolutely. And I thought, like you say, lucky to go in 1-0. I mean, I thought it should have been at least 3-0, to be honest, at half-time, with the chance that they were missing. Like you say, Fraser Forster had a really good performance in that first half, and he was keeping the score at a respectable scoreline at 1-0. Half-time comes and you're kind of thinking, all right, we needed that half-time desperately. And we come out with a different mentality in that second half. I actually thought we played all right in that second half without hurting them too much. And when they did get that goal on the 70th minute, I did feel it was kind of against the run of play a bit. And Romero obviously steps out and makes that challenge and that foul for the free kick on the 70th minute. But I did feel like we were creeping back into that game throughout that half.
I would agree, but that for me it only really happened once we brought on Basuma and Kulusevski. I thought that added energy actually did allow us to get forward a lot more and hurt Aston Villa. And I thought Basuma was actually one of the shining lights coming on with his cameo.
Both of them, actually.
Yeah, Kulusevski as well. But what I would say is, I can't remember when we had that chance when Harry Kane, Højbjerg wins it half the pitch, and Harry Kane is pretty much through on goal.
Right at the start of the second half.
That was like...
it was like the 55th minute.
Yes, that was just before, I think, Basuma came on. So we had that opening, but we didn't really... Apart from that, that was like we forced a mistake out of them, but other than that, we weren't really doing much. And then Basuma and Kulusevski come on. Momentum seemed to swing back in Tottenham's favour. And we did seem to create chances. Kulusevski had that really good opportunity. Basuma was adding that energy in the centre of the park. I was really happy with him. And it looked like Tottenham were in the ascendancy and we were going to probably get the equaliser. Then Unai Emery, who's a very clever manager, didn't wait too long to see what was happening. He makes a couple of changes. And I feel like after those changes, I wouldn't say they wrestled back some momentum, but they made maybe even the playing field a bit, because Tottenham were on top and maybe weren't as dominant after those changes. They did get that free kick, and then for me, I think Fraser Forster has to save that.
Yeah, he gets a strong hand to it.
He has to. It was not in the corner.
Yeah, he gets a strong hand to it, and he basically pushes it into the back of the net. Let's be honest, and it's unfortunate for Fraser because he was having a good game up until then, to be honest. And it's just a shame. And that bring back to that moment that you were talking about when Højbjerg presses high up the pitch and relieves it to Harry Kane, and Harry Kane should have done better. Like, I don't understand why we started the first half with that momentum, pressing high up the pitch. And we hardly saw that again after that. I mean, where was Højbjerg? I mean, Højbjerg, such great work there in the start of the second half, but then we didn't see that again. Why didn't we use that as kind of like a momentum to carry on doing that and carrying on putting them under pressure in that sort of way? Because we didn't.
Yeah, we couldn't catch them again. That's the reality, I think. But I think that maybe that's what Unai Emery was seeing. He was seeing how we were starting to press a lot higher. And that's when he made a few tactical changes to relieve a bit of the pressure. So Villa had a few more options to play out, because I felt like we were pressing them quite effectively in that second half, and they were really struggling to play their football. But then again, Unai Emery is a good tactician, and I think he showed it. He managed the game really well. I did think that second goal was a killer. I do think if Forster saves that, there's a good chance we go on and get an equaliser at that point. Obviously, we did get the penalty late on, but it was a bit too little too late. But I think you have to give credit to Unai Emery, because I think he just managed the game really well. Ryan Mason tried to change things, but unfortunately, I think he just got out-tacted by Unai Emery on the day.
Yeah, and look, we lose the game, and I thought it was a deserved loss as well, because you can't perform like that in the first half away at a good side, especially like Aston Villa or any side in the Premier League. You can't go and perform like that in the first half and expect to come away with 3 points. That's just the fact of the matter, and it's just like, where the hell do we go from here now? Where the hell do we go? I mean, top 6 is looking, I mean, it's still on, but if we would have won that game yesterday, that puts us in real pole position to finish in the top 6.
Yeah, if you look at the standings, you can bring it on. Brighton play later today, so obviously they've got 3 games in hand on us. They go away to Arsenal, and they by next week, 2 of those games would have been played. So they play away at Arsenal today, and they play Newcastle midweek as well. If they fail to win both of those games, if they get, say, a maximum of 1 point in those games, I do think it's very much on, because that one game in hand they'll have is Man City.
Yeah.
So as long as we win the next 2 games, I think it's going to be very difficult for Brighton.
It's tall order for us to win.
But we have to win them,
games.
exactly. We have to win them. It's going to be on us, and whether we can get the job done. Villa have Liverpool and Brighton as well, so no guarantee they win those 2 games. So I do still think, in a weird way, I mean, I have to wait to see what Brighton do over the next 2 games, but I do kind of think that we're still in a position where that 6th place is not in our hands, but it's still within us to get it if we can win those 2 games. Yeah. It's definitely in our grasp. I believe if we win those 2 games, we get 6th. I just have a belief.
Yeah, but I can't see us winning these 2 games. I mean, when you're looking at the away form that we're showing, no away win since February. It's ridiculous. It really is ridiculous. And you're looking at it. We go to Leeds, last game of the season. That is going to be a massive game for them. No matter what they do in the next game, it's going to be a massive game for them. And Sam Allardyce, drawing 2-2 with Newcastle over the weekend. I mean, I've got no hope or faith that we could go up to Ellen Road on the last game of the season and win.
Yeah, not if we play like that away from home, 100%. Obviously, you have to give the context. The last 3 away games that we have conceded in the first 10 minutes have been difficult games. Newcastle away, Liverpool away, Villa away, all very good home sides, all very good teams in good form as well. So there has to be that added context. We are going to be playing a Leeds side. Obviously, it's going to be a massive game for them, but they're not obviously of that quality. But when they're fighting tooth and nail to stay in this league, am I really going to believe that Tottenham, to get that last Europa League spot, are going to match that fight and really put in that extra bit of effort they're going to need to get all 3 points in this game to snatch that last Europa League spot? I have my doubts. I'm out of my doubts, because we just seem to lack any sort of fight in away games right now, apart from when we're losing. That's the only time we seem to turn up and we think, okay, this game's getting away from us, maybe we should put a bit of effort in. Yeah. That's what it seems like at the moment. So whether, I honestly think it's still on Tottenham to get the job done, even though we've lost yesterday and the table does seem bad, but I still think Tottenham can do it if we win the last 2 games. Yeah. But whether we'll do it, that's the big question.
Yeah, I'm of the same thinking of you, really. Like, I think if we do go and win those last 2 games, we will finish in the top 6, but I can't see us winning those last 2 games. I can see us winning that game against Brentford at home, because our home form is good. But I've just got no faith in us going away from home. We don't have the bottle to do it. We just don't. And how can we back ourselves to win an away game when we haven't won one since February?
And these are, it's not just difficult games we have. Southampton away, Everton away. We just have failed to win. We've bottled it when it matters most. Albeit in those games we actually have been in the lead, in a difference lately where we've been behind early. But there's nothing I've seen away from home to suggest if Leeds are not down by that last day, if they need a result to stay up, I mean, who better to play than a team like Tottenham? Tottenham.
If we do gain 3 points from now to the end of the season, let's say, just the win against Brentford, and let's say 4, and a draw maybe against Leeds, if we're lucky, where do you think that will leave us come the end of the season?
If we get 4 points, I think we probably finish 7th. Because I think Villa, I don't see them getting more than 4. In their next 2, they got Liverpool at Anfield and then home to Brighton.
I think that they could finish on 0.
They could, but I don't see more than 4.
Yeah.
I mean, 4 is an absolute maximum. I don't see, and that would be them level on points with us if they get 4. Obviously, that depends on goal difference. Depends on how big our win is compared to how big their win is.
I think 3 max for Villa.
Yeah, I don't see them more. Yeah, 3 is. I mean, 4 is generous to be fair.
Yeah.
So
they ain't getting anything.
So I do think if we get 4 points, we'll be above Villa. Then it'll just be on Brighton. Brighton would then need 6 points out of their next 5 games. They do play Arsenal, Newcastle, City, so there is a decent chance they lose all 3 of those. And then the other 2 is against Villa and against Southampton. You give them 3 points against Southampton, so it's whether they win that Villa game, I guess, if they get.
What's the
draws in other
roadmap
games.
to no European football at all? We need to lose both games pretty much.
If we lose both games, Villa get at least a point against Brighton or Liverpool, and then
that'll be that.
And Brighton win and get 1 win against Southampton. Yeah. So if we lose both, or 2 draws even, probably I think maybe. Well, at the moment 2 draws, we can get 7th with Villa's fixtures.
Yeah,
that's the problem.
Because we're level on points with Aston Villa at the moment going into the last 2 games. But look, it's
still all to play for in a weird way.
It is all to play for, but like a win yesterday or even a draw yesterday would have put us in such good stead, to be honest. But we didn't get it. We put in a shambles of away performance once again, going down so early on. It was such a hard watch yesterday, wasn't it? I mean, especially that first half. You're sitting there and there's just nothing on display, absolutely nothing. And it was an embarrassment, to be honest, that first half. Shining lights, the only positives to take out of that is the cameos from Kulusevski and Bissouma, in my opinion. And I think both of them, I'd like to see them start next game, especially Bissouma, because I think Højbjerg and Skip are just not doing enough at the moment.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think they're also hurt by the tactics, to be honest. Because I think Unai Emery knew what he was doing when he pretty much put a 4 box of midfielders in the centre, and it really restricted their access to those midfielders. But 100%, you saw what Bissouma could do when he came on. He was able to have the confidence to get on the ball and actually play on the half turn and look forward and play progressive passes. I think Bissouma played 6 progressive passes in the half an hour he was on in the final third, and Skip played 0 throughout the time he was on. That just goes to show the difference that Bissouma made. So I would like to see Bissouma maybe start in the next game and see how he is, and maybe in the way he showed more in that half an hour than he did pretty much throughout this whole time under Conte. Maybe being unshackled will definitely help him. Kulusevski definitely looked sharp. Richarlison, the guy really pissed me off yesterday, I have to say. The guy just doesn't know how to look at a line. He's just consistently offside, consistently. And at least Son was offside as well, but at least he was trying to make actual penetrative runs against this Aston Villa side, where if he did catch the line, he would have been through on goal, would have been a good opportunity. Richarlison, he was offside, and even if he was onside, he wasn't even in good positions, you know what I mean? He wasn't through on goal or anything. He was just in positions where he was easily caught and wasn't able to affect the game. And he was just absolutely pathetic, I thought, yesterday, Richarlison, I have to say.
And look, let's be honest, Richarlison, as much as he has put in okay performances, but when we say he puts in good and okay performances, we're not talking about performances of high quality. We're talking about performances where he puts a big effort in and he tires out the defence. I mean, I haven't seen any performance this year from Richarlison where you walk away being like, wow, this is a top player we got here. We spent 60 million on him, and he can't put in a performance that of any sort of high quality. The only performance he can put in is high energy performances, and that's good performance for him.
I would say earlier in the season we saw some good performances, but definitely since the turn of the year, since the World Cup, I mean, I haven't seen anything from him, to be honest. There's been nothing really to suggest that we haven't completely overpaid for him. I think early on he was having really good cameos where he was actually affecting the game. I remember he started a couple games like against Marseille and against like Fulham. I remember where he was actually putting some really high quality performances. We're like, okay, this guy can really help the team. But since the turn of the year, especially, like his performances have been, in terms of quality-wise, in terms of affecting the game in the final third, they've been non-existent. Let's be honest. We have to call a spade a spade. They have been. He hasn't really been able to affect the game in the final third whatsoever. And when he has, he's been offside every time, and it's ridiculous. So I think that Richarlison has to get his act together, to be honest. And I think a new manager has to find a way of really getting game to start being effective, because at the moment he's just completely ineffective.
How the hell are you going to spend 60 million on a player and he gets more bookings than goals? It's ridiculous.
He's offside more than he has touches in the game. It's mad.
It's mental. It's mental, and he needs to shape up.
And also, I have to say, Romero, I think both goals you can say he was badly at fault for.
I agree, and it's such a shame with Romero because he put in such a stellar display last time out in that centre of the back three, and again, and he backs it up with an absolute poor performance, in my opinion. And
I actually think there was some good yesterday, but
there were some good in
there,
there, but
moments.
he was too reckless and he was too. I think over the top in the way he was trying to do things, and his timing was off yesterday.
Yeah,
massively.
It was. And it cost us in both moments.
But look, that is our match review for the 2-1 loss against Aston Villa. I want to know your thoughts in the comments section below. Are we going through a social experiment as a Tottenham fan? I want to know your opinions on that one as well in the comment section below. But thank you everyone for joining us today. Like, subscribe and comment. And as always,
come on you Spurs.